Once upon a time, in the rainy city of Liverpool, England, four boys dreamed of making music that the world would never forget. Their names were John, Paul, George, and Ringo. They didn't have money, they didn't have fancy instruments, but they had something more important: passion, friendship, and big dreams. This is the story of the Beatles, a band that started from nothing and became the most famous group in music history. In the 1950s, Liverpool was a gray and busy port city. Many young people worked hard jobs and didn't have many opportunities. But music gave them hope. On the radio, American rock and roll was exciting young minds. One of those was a teenage boy named John Lennon. He loved artists like Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry. John started a band with his school friends. They called it the Quarrymen. One day, at a church party, a young boy named Paul McCartney came to see them play. After the show, Paul played a few songs for John. John was impressed. He invited Paul to join the group. A little later, Paul introduced John to George Harrison, a quiet boy who was excellent on the guitar. George was only 14, but he could play complex songs easily. At first, John thought George was too young, but after hearing him play again, he changed his mind. The band had many different names: Johnny and the Moondogs, the Silver Beatles, but in 1960, they chose the Beatles. It was a mix of beat, like music beat, and Beatles, the insect, inspired by Buddy Holly's band The Crickets. The group wasn't complete until they found the right drummer. After a few early drummers, they finally met Ringo Starr, real name Richard Starkey. Ringo had a friendly smile, a cool style, and a great sense of rhythm. With Ringo, the group felt complete. They were ready to show the world what they could do. But becoming great wasn't easy. In 1960, the Beatles traveled to Hamburg, Germany, to play in clubs. These clubs were not glamorous. Some were in dangerous parts of the city, and they had to play long hours, sometimes 7 hours a night, 6 nights a week. They slept in small, dirty rooms behind the stage. They ate cheap food and had very little money. But in Hamburg, they learned how to perform for hours, how to work together, and how to entertain all kinds of people. When they returned to Liverpool in 1961, they were a different band. Stronger, tighter, more confident. Back in Liverpool, the Beatles played at the Cavern Club, a small club underground. The walls were made of brick. The room was hot and dark, but it was full of energy. The crowd screamed with excitement. That's when Brian Epstein saw them. Brian was a music shop manager. He saw something special in the band. He became their manager and gave them a new image: clean suits, tidy hair, and a smart style. He also helped them find a record deal. Finally, in 1962, the Beatles released their first single, Love Me Do. It reached number 17 on the UK charts. Not bad for a first try. Their second single, Please Please Me, went to number 1. They were on their way. By 1963, the Beatles were everywhere in Britain. Their songs were on the radio. Their faces were in newspapers and on posters. Teenagers lined up for hours to see them. People called this wild love Beatlemania. Fans screamed so loudly at concerts that the band couldn't hear their own instruments. In 1964, the Beatles went to America for the first time. When they arrived in New York City, thousands of fans waited at the airport. Over 70 million people watched them on The Ed Sullivan Show, which was a record. That moment made history. After that, they became global superstars. Their songs I Want to Hold Your Hand, She Loves You, and Can't Buy Me Love were on every radio station. The Beatles could have kept writing love songs forever, but they wanted more. They wanted to explore new sounds and new ideas. Their 1965 album Rubber Soul was the beginning of something different. It had folk, rock, and emotional lyrics. In 1966, Revolver added sitars, strange studio effects, and deep themes. That year they stopped performing live. It became too dangerous and stressful, so they decided to focus on recording albums. Then came their most famous album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, 1967. It was colorful, creative, and full of imagination. Songs like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and A Day in the Life changed what people thought music could be. They weren't just making songs anymore. They were making art. The Beatles didn't just make music, they also made films, like A Hard Day's Night and Help. They were funny and full of charm, showing the band's playful side. In 1968, they traveled to India to learn meditation with a teacher called Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. George was especially interested in Indian culture and brought its influence into the music. That same year, they created their own company, Apple Corps. It included a record label, shop, and creative space. But managing a business was harder than they thought. They released the White Album in 1968, a double album full of different styles, from rock to acoustic to experimental. But behind the scenes, problems were growing. By 1969, the Beatles were no longer the same. Fame, stress, and different ideas started to separate them.
Paul wanted to keep the band together.
John wanted to explore his own music with Yoko Ono. George wanted more of his songs included. Ringo sometimes felt left out. They made one final album together, Abbey Road. The cover, showing them walking across a zebra crossing, became iconic. The album included beautiful songs like Here Comes the Sun and Come Together. In 1970, Paul announced that he was leaving the band. It was the end of the Beatles. Even after the breakup, all four Beatles continued to make music. John released Imagine, a song for peace and unity. Paul formed a band called Wings and had a long solo career. George released All Things Must Pass and became involved in charity concerts. Ringo made albums and even acted in movies. Sadly, in 1980, the world lost John Lennon, who was killed in New York. Fans around the globe lit candles and cried together. In 2001, George Harrison died from cancer. He was remembered for his gentle spirit and deep music. Today, Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr continue to perform and share their stories. The Beatles changed music forever. They wrote over 200 songs and sold more than 1 billion records. Their style, message, and creativity influenced generations. They showed the world that music could bring people together. They spoke about love, peace, and imagination in a way everyone could understand. Today, young people still discover their music. Their songs are in movies, TV shows, and schools. Let It Be, Yesterday, and Hey Jude are still played all over the world. The Beatles were more than just a band. They were a dream that came true. For boys from Liverpool with guitars and big ideas became a symbol of hope and change. Their story is a reminder. No matter where you come from, if you believe in your passion, you can do something great. And as they once sang, all you need is love.